Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel, and today we're going to be talking about a new TCG exclusive for Power of the Elements that was revealed this morning. I believe it was through Ruggles on YouTube who actually had this along with some other reveals directly from Konami. So go ahead and check the channel out. I'll put a link in the description down below because that is where the content came from. But this is the one I want to focus on because this card is actually insane, and it's a TCG exclusive. It does look like it's going to be an ultra rare based on the graphic. So let's go over the effect and then just talk about a bit of application because this just feels like a really good TCG exclusive when for so long we've had just very lackluster ones, and then, you know, a couple of cool archetypes like Plunder that they kind of didn't really finish giving support to for whatever reason. Same with Beat Troopers and so on. But let's actually read the effect of this card. So this is Garura, Wings of Resonant Life. Pretty cool effect for sure. A level 6 dark Wing Beast fusion monster. It needs two monsters with the same type and attribute but different names. So it's a little different than Mud Dragon of the Swamp, which needs two monsters with the same attribute but different types. This is going to work best against decks that like play all one type, you know, if it's an archetype that's pretty much all the same, you know, typing and attributes of monsters, or as a counter to decks like that with things like Super Poly, which we'll talk about in a minute. Any battle damage your opponent takes from battles involving this card is doubled. If this card is sent to the graveyard, you can draw one card. You can only use this effect of Garura, Wings of Resonant Life once per turn. So, first off, right off the bat, you know, Super Poly comes to mind as the best application for this card because it is really generic in the sense that it's even easier to use than Mud Dragon in some cases. And I actually, you know, just kind of looking around at some of the different options that this would be effective against, you look at decks like Marincess, which just recently saw, you know, good representation at Nationals and actually ended up top 4. Pretty much all Cyberse, all water, so ways to break through those boards pretty easily, and you can just, you know, fuse two of the opponent's Marincess monsters to make this, which is, you know, as basic as it gets, but definitely gives you an option against decks like that. Next one that comes to mind is Fluanderies, which everyone knows, of course, is the most fun deck in the world to play against. I think people either love or hate this deck, but they are all Winged Beasts, and there are multiple wind options, so you do have certain combinations that you can use. It's not always going to be an option because some of them have different attributes like Rabina, but then some of them like Eaglin are wind as well as M-Pen, so depending on your timing and when you're getting these things going, you can, you know, break an opponent's board, potentially disrupting any of their combos a lot more easily than you could before, because there are attributes that match up. Snowl and Rabina, M-Pan and Eaglin, and some of the other ones match up as well. So that's another one that kind of came to mind here. And of course, Drytron, which has fallen out a bit in terms of popularity, but it's definitely still always on the fringe looking in, especially with Ben 10 being legal 2 again. Drytron's, you know, mostly light machines before you get to the rituals. If you can cut that combo off at the right point before they're able to kind of go into their big plays, you can definitely disrupt the opponent. Not the strongest application because it's, you know, it's Super Poly, and obviously in certain scenarios you could still Super Poly against Drytron to go into things like Mud Dragon, but just a few examples of this card's application, which is what I was really looking to convey there. It just seems like it's a really cool card, and one of the more interesting things about it is that if this card is sent to the graveyard, effect is not from the field. It really doesn't matter where it's sent from at all. So someone brought this up to me when I was looking at this card prior to the actual video here. If you look at a card like Nadir's Servant, which just says send a monster from your extra deck to the graveyard, then add one Dogmatic monster or Fallen of Albaz from your deck to your hand, but that has less attack than or equal to that sent monster. Also for the rest of the turn, after this card resolves, you cannot special summon monsters from the extra deck. So you can basically use Nadir's Servant to send Garura, and then you can search Ecclesia or Fallen of Albaz realistically, and you get a draw, which kind of makes Nadir's Servant in certain decks and certain scenarios turn into like an alternate version of Sky Striker Engage. I mean, if you're sending something to search for Ecclesia, then you draw a card afterwards, it's just a pretty cool like option to have access to, and that generic sort of, not only does this card, you know, replace itself when it dies if you summon it with Super Poly or, you know, through a different fusion card, I guess, if you're fusion summoning it yourself. It just kind of has that sort of application going for it. So there's a lot to like about this card. It's combos with all types of different things. Don't forget, decks can also play it, like, you know, within your own deck as a way to like push for extra damage. as a way to, utilize or capitalize on certain fusion effects and stuff. This is going to be a card that I think people are definitely going to find ways to play, and I think it's better in more than just one singular way, especially when you look at some of the other new cards that are coming out in Power of the Elements, which we will talk about in an upcoming video, that revolve around sending cards from extra deck to grave. And, since the Albaz stuff started to come out, we've gotten a lot more, interactiveness with the extra deck. Obviously, cards like, Nadir Servant are just one example, but there are a lot of cards that allow you to send from extra deck to grave, and of course doing so allows you to draw. So now you have different options like Intis, which can pop something, and this, which can let you draw, and Titanic Glide, which lets you search. There's a lot of different interaction that you have with the extra deck that you maybe didn't have before, so it should be interesting to see how that kind of comes together. So I think Garura is a really, really cool TCG exclusive. I like what it does for, both acting as a counter type card and also allowing certain decks to have a bit of an expansive strategy, and it's just cool to see a TCG exclusive that isn't completely worthless garbage, which I know is a little strong, but it's been very disappointing lately compared to how some of the TCG exclusive used to be. So let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Do you think Garura is pretty good? Do you think it's being a bit overrated? Where do you stand on it? I'm definitely in the camp of it's going to see play and it has a lot of potential application, but people may disagree, so please comment down below, let me know what you think, and of course, like the video if you enjoyed, subscribe to the channel to stay up to date, and you can click the bell icon to stay notified if you want. I'll catch you in the next video. Peace.